Welcome to the North Star, a space for candid conversations on leadership, equity, and social justice. This season, we're exploring disruption, how bold thinkers are reimagining what change looks like. Today, I'm joined by Martin Ekechukwu, an entrepreneur and changemaker whose story challenges the idea that social impact is limited to nonprofits or education. Martin is the co-founder and CEO of WHTWRKS and co-host of the newly launched The Quiet Truth podcast. Together, we'll explore how innovation in business can drive equity and what that means for the next generation of leaders. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of it. Great intros.
Yeah. All right, let's jump right into it. So, you were born and raised in Nigeria as well as the Czech Republic before coming to the U.S. How did your immigrant experience and family values shape your outlook in your career path?
Honestly, because I'm coming from an immigrant family, my entire outlook was all based off of achievement and taking advantage of things that most people are taking for granted, unfortunately. So my father being Nigerian, my mother being Czech, very highly educated academics. They wanted to come to the States in order to be able to have a better opportunity for their children. So for me, it's all about education, achievement, identifying new opportunities, and really understanding that nothing is promised and we have to work extremely hard for it. And being transplanted from one country, not even like a state or a city, one country to the next, the adjustment period and the understanding of how to blend my cultural background with the cultural background and the platform that I'm stepping into, and then using all my experiences to bring things to life uniquely, which is really what I've been focusing on for the last, since I've been an adult, like a real full-fledged, fully formed adult. Has been trying to figure out ways to build opportunities for myself and my kids, because I know that there's a very short time period for all of us to kind of do things that we love to do. And I hope that I'm actually trying to achieve some of it now.
So I'm a sociologist, and I hear that, is it your mom who's an anthropologist?
My
Um,
father has got his master's degree from the Czech Republic,
okay,
uh, and his doctorate from Oxford, one of the two. I keep on forgetting
okay.
which one it is. But yeah, he's an anthropologist and sociologist. And so I
Mhm,
used to listen to him talk. He became a family counselor, kids
mhm.
and learning, and got into sociology and taught for many, many years, almost 20 years. Still actually, frankly, he's still teaching as an adjunct professor online to a bunch
Yeah.
of schools now. So he loves it. And being in an academic family,
Mhm.
that was also part of it as well, as kind of learning about different people and backgrounds. And I actually enjoyed it. My dad used to take us to Oklahoma to learn about the Amish and
Mm.
their culture, which was actually quite fascinating. And I used to actually enjoy those trips quite a bit.
When you have a family member, your parent is, a sociologist or an anthropologist, right? You learn to be a lover of culture, people of
Yep.
culture. You consume that, right? In what ways has that shaped you, and maybe thinking about how that shaped you as perhaps a parent or even a lover of culture and society?
I absolutely love culture, and I absorb so much of it
Mhm.
as much as possible, and really is instilled into me from my father. And you got to love New York City. I'm in the middle of culture right now, where anything can
Okay.
happen. Back streets, absolutely any moment in time. You could hear fights, and you could hear loves, you can hear agreements, children, everything. So to me, being embedded inside a culture is incredibly important. My father, who brought me into the Amish culture, taught me how to really appreciate other cultures. Frankly, because I'm Czech and Nigerian, that kind of came a little bit naturally. But my
Uh-huh.
father really kind of broadened my experience beyond just my particular background, helped me to understand other cultures in a very unique way. And also within Black culture as well, having to go into move to the US, move to the South, move
Yeah.
to Arkansas from two big, very disparate countries. That was also a culture shock, but I also had to take it the same way my father took it, which is try to understand the culture, and immerse yourself in the culture, and allow it to shape you somewhat.
Absolutely. So, in thinking about sort of your career path, um, it's very fascinating learning a little bit about your path because you sort of charted your own path. And you've said a lot about how you didn't really choose entrepreneurship, right? You realized that you weren't really built to conform to corporate expectations. How did you think about that decision now in terms of creating disruption in your own life and finding alignment?
Well, when I was younger, it scared the everything out of me, frankly, because you're brought up to be able to go through a particular pathway. And going into business school, it's almost like you go to business school and there's a journey you kind of follow as a result of going to business school, whether it's finance, marketing, operations, brand, whatever it might be. There's a pathway that's created. And for me, coming from another culture, another experience, another career path, coming into business school, and allowing me to kind of go into new experiences was really what helped me shape my entrepreneurial journey. It allowed me to have so much exposure to so many people, even when I was interning, even when I had my first job. It allowed me to really get a sense of how companies run. What are the operational capabilities that are required to run a large company? What are the ways to network? How do you ultimately work within a large team environment? How do you build things from scratch, from the ground up? And how do you lead teams to kind of do things? How do you also get coalitions? How do you get folks to be on your side? How do you get advocates? All those things are created, and all of it has served me in some way in entrepreneurship. The thing about entrepreneurship versus corporate is really about resilience, right? Entrepreneurship is continuously grinding and pushing your foot on the gas all the time. I'm not saying corporate, you don't necessarily do that too, but it's a little bit different. You have a little bit more time, you have a little bit more grace, you have a little bit more ability to maneuver within a system and get advocates for you and get team members for you. While here you're largely on your own, kind of an island for the most part. But your job at the end of the day is to bring people around you. And so from the corporate experience, entrepreneurship experience, I brought people around me that were able to help me be smarter, make better decisions, support me, open up doors I didn't necessarily know were there. And I aligned myself with people that I frankly I'm very blessed to have in my life that were able to create a pathway for me into some level of success. So entrepreneurship for me was not necessarily a given from day one, but once I got into the roles of corporate and I realized my skill set's actually not best served here, is
Mm.
best served building things and having ownership of the build of those things and then watching it grow and then rinse, wash, repeat. I just didn't know what job, if there was a job description at Pepsi that says that, I probably would be there, frankly.
Yeah.
I would be there. But there was no job description that really fit my expertise. The closest that I could find was actually a cultural change agent or just change agent. It's
Right.
like marketing, senior brand leader responsible for culture or responsible for change or some sort of change agent, right?
Mm.
That was like the closest that I found, but I found that most organizations, they say they want to see change, but then the minute you present them with change, they just want to do what they did last year.
How did you know when you were on the right track? What did it take? And I imagine there are a lot of barriers that you kind of met along the way. At what point did you know, yep, I'm doing the right thing?
I still don't know. There is no. It's I was on the podcast The Quiet Truth with Eniton, and we were actually talking about one particular topic, which is, if for those of you that remember the TV show Martin,
Oh, yeah.
there was Tommy, and everyone was like, "What does Tommy do? What does Tommy do?" And I saw myself as a real life Tommy, right? That's because I was always in the mix, moving the ball forward, doing different things, but I didn't necessarily have a box to be able to put in. But somehow I wasn't homeless. Somehow I was able to buy things. Somehow I was able to kind of move things around, able to kind of shuffle all together.
Uh-huh.
But I never really knew because I've always had multiple interests in multiple things. And my wife, bless her heart, has been like, Martin, find the thing you're really most passionate about and do that. And I'm still trying to figure out to this day, frankly, it's like, what have I figured out? What I figured out is that I know how to build things. I know how to create ecosystems. And I know how to connect dots. Those are the three things that I know absolutely that I do hands down better than anybody out there. The difficulty becomes, how do I monetize it?
Yeah. Yeah. So in 2013, you launched your own marketing agency, right? Rather than, like you said, stay in a role that felt like you were being boxed in, right? How did that sort of disruption change the way you saw yourself and what you felt like your purpose was?
Well, my purpose then was to really write impactful strategy for brands looking to get into the multicultural space and haven't necessarily figured it out. So I had just come off of a multicultural marketing role. And from that role, I realized that brands think they know what multicultural marketing is, but simply putting a person of color into the ad doesn't necessarily make it
Yeah.
multicultural. So from that process of working with people within particular roles that were like, let's just make the imagery diverse, that was not multicultural marketing. Obviously, things have changed in the last 12 years, but at the time it was do it differently, create alignment between brand and talent that happen to be diverse, create ecosystems around brands where they can plug into multiple diverse spaces and then as a result provide audiences and consumers what they're looking for and develop real emotional connections between the brand and the audience. Now today, social media helps you to get there a little bit, activations and events help you to get there, but back then everyone was just thinking campaign, campaign, campaign. And we were
Mhm.
saying, let's create an ecosystem that actually has some value that's ownable by a brand. So it's completely different now than it was then, but that was really what helped me to focus because I was like, I see a problem that was not being addressed within the brand marketing flywheel. Can I present something that might be unique and different?
Now, forgive my ignorance on this question, but this is something that's always, been very curious to me just as a sociologist. So, over the past, I don't know, decade, maybe even past 5 years, you've seen a lot of folks who go onto social media, become influencers, right? And generate tons and tons of content. And it makes it seem like marketing, there's just like this super easy sort of magic to becoming an influencer and a marketer it becoming marketing, right? And I know for a fact that it is not that easy. Can you sort of dispel this myth for us right now?
It is the hardest thing on the planet. It's like going to the NBA. It really is. You have
Ah,
450 you have 450 slots every year, 450 new jobs every single
okay.
year that show up, right? That's all you get out of 10 million people that are playing basketball on an ongoing basis. So it's 0.00001% of the folks that actually can get traction and make money off of it. Influencer marketing is probably some of the hardest like career jobs to do. Looks like fun and frankly even in our current podcast, it's an everyday job. It's continuously engaging the audience, talking to them and building a relationship. You're dating and dating and dating for, thousands of people, hoping
Right.
that you'll monetize it at some point. So influencer marketing and becoming an influencer and being successful at it is an incredible difficult thing. Sometimes people will get there because of one of three things will happen: super aggressive clickbait strategy where you're being incredibly divisive and denigrating or whatever, which will bring a very polarized audience to the table. And that frankly has some level of success. I'm not going to lie to you. It does. Because what you're doing is you're creating a pit right between a large audience, creating them to fight against each other.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, they're going to fight, they're going to create news, noise, and whatever, which brings brands and money inside the funnel. There are other people within influencer space that simply just have a product that they'd like to be able to promote, have a lifestyle, an attitude, things like that. That requires a curation, which also has a condition that you should have taste. And not
Yeah.
everyone has taste to be able to create a lifestyle that actually is interesting. Now there are others that play in very niche categories that are incredibly successful.
Mm.
Those that play specifically within, healthcare or anything related to politics or other space. Healthcare in particular is a unique space. So if you are like, I follow like a bunch of dermatologists, a bunch of medical professionals that are just talking about things about your body and skin and changes and whatever, incredibly niched, but very effective because you're coming
Right.
with credibility. So that's kind of like the three places that I see. But
Right.
no matter what, building an audience is some of the hardest work, especially if you're building it organically. I can
Uh-huh.
just go buy some people, but if you're building organically, it's incredibly difficult to do.
Mhm. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about, things within the diversity, equity, and inclusion space and how that impacts the world that you live in. A lot has shifted over the past year as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we've seen so much change within diversity, equity, and inclusion, how have you seen entrepreneurship become this viable avenue for impact and change now that diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives effectively being shut down? Is there a way for an avenue for entrepreneurship to become sort of this pathway, if you will, to revive potentially diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I wish I had a very clear answer for that because it's
Mm.
multi-layered. DEI initiatives have gone away in the official way, but
Mm.
there's still a lot of energy around targeting people of color generally to be able to kind of have them drive revenue for brands. That's still there, right? So some of the supporting systems have kind of gone away. If you're an agency like mine, we were preferred vendors for a lot of brands, and that sort of kind of went away. We were also part of an internal group of others that were advocates for us, and so that kind of went away. So a lot of the like underpinnings there within the DEI space, but there's still, if you can maneuver your way through an organization, you can still find the bread, the money, the opportunity that's there, right? So there's that part of it. Entrepreneurship as a segue into building back up DEI initiatives and diversity initiatives, the entrepreneurship opportunity really exists in helping other entrepreneurs, right? So if you are able to start a company because you have access and network into large organizations where you can help them maneuver through an organization. For example, if you happen to be an expert in supplier diversity and have all the right networks into the Cokes and the Pepsis and the such, right? You could be a great value to someone like myself, and now we would pay you for the access to get into the door to then pitch our business to those that we would never have access to because you're an expert in supplier diversity, you have the network that we just don't have. So that's a way to kind of connect two dots with a missing piece,
Mhm.
which could be a major entrepreneurship opportunity because that gap has not been filled because all the opportunities now that we are seeing, we are on the same level as everybody else, get no preferential treatment and no doors are opening just because we happen to be people of color.
Absolutely. Over the course of your careers, and especially given the role that you've had as an entrepreneur, have you been a part of any projects that have created any social change? And if so, what has the experience look like for you?
My biggest opportunity within the social change atmosphere is actually through my business partner, Jeffrey Burrows, and he's actually has been working very closely with the Sankofa Foundation. So I was pulled in to work with the Harry Belafonte Sankofa Foundation years ago, and that was incredibly enriching. In addition, we've also done a lot of work here in New York with the mayoral race and trying to advocate for certain individuals as well. And we've also been working and donating our time to the arts as well. So Robert Kraft put money into an organization called Chelsea Factory, which helped to bring the arts together in New York City of local artists and helping them to establish themselves in the New York City area. He took over a full building, paid a bunch of money for it. And so we supported and bringing the arts into New York City in a different, unique way, in a much more of a diverse way. So yeah, it has been incredibly enriching, frankly, because again, I know what it's like to have to build from the ground up, both personally and professionally. And I like helping all those that are looking to be able to cross barriers. If that means supporting from the social change side, that's what I'll do.
Yeah. One of the, conversations that a lot of folks have, particularly when it relates to social justice and social change, and then also, in entrepreneurship is making this, reconciling the tension between, profit and purpose, right?
Mhm.
How do you reconcile that tension? What does that mean to you?
Profit and purpose, I'd like to make money while doing good. So I actually joined an organization 4 or 5 years ago. While I was in the agency, I stepped out to be able to build brands for celebrity talent that addressed a lot of the issues that were unaddressed by products already sitting in the market. So we developed products for underrepresented communities, addressing underrepresented needs. So I developed the Naomi Osaka sun care line, which addressed the needs of people of color when it comes to melanoma, which unfortunately people of color die at a 3 times greater rate than non-people of color because of late stage diagnoses. In addition, I've also developed things with Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade when it comes to providing products for children of color, in particular because we have drier skin and a lot of products that exist on the market don't actually address the challenges with loss of moisture and more darker skin tones. So we created that, right? And so for me, the way that I've always been impactful is by developing things that fits a need in the audience, in the market rather, that didn't exist before. So it's very fulfilling.
So I've been an educator for almost 20 years and have been teaching at the college level, and it's something that I truly, truly enjoy. And I have the wonderful pleasure right now of working with students at Oberlin College. And in particular, I'm working with a group of students who are going through a 3-semester fellowship program related to social justice and change. And one of the things that has really struck me thus far over the course of working with these students is how much of an impact students currently want to make. Students are really uncertain right now on how exactly to make that change, particularly given a lot of the shifts that we've seen recently as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially within the nonprofit and the not-for-profit spaces. And many of my students feel in a number of ways particularly boxed in and aren't necessarily certain about how they could make effective changes in corporate spaces, right? So what kinds of things could students learn from your journey about how to effectively carve out space for change, regardless of the space that they're in, but particularly if they're in a corporate space?
Well, a few things. One, a lot of corporate spaces now are doing away with ERG programs. They're doing away with programs that focus on diverse audiences and bringing diverse employees together to talk about challenges and ways that can sort of make it through. I would encourage anyone on the corporate track in a corporate environment where that's not there to create their own space and create moments where they can all come together and help to identify ways to support each other from a Black executive or an Asian executive or a Hispanic executive, and creating these moments where they're able to pass on information from their careers and their pathways and their journeys, right? So that's one way. The second way is to, frankly, I've always been a big advocate of supporting local. So we have a unfortunate or fortunate homeless population in New York City. We have a fortunate drug addiction population here as well. So we try to always be local and support locally. So doing things at local food banks, local houses, local homeless shelters, and really be engaged in that way as well. So it's important to us that we do a lot. So I would encourage anyone that's in the corporate space that feels as though they can't necessarily be impactful socially to step out and actually create these groups and frankly, be advocates for the people that look like them.
Absolutely. So you and I aren't necessarily Gen Z, right? But we are both interfacing a lot with people who are. What advice do you have for young people who are truly discouraged about our current state of affairs?
Man, I would say, hey, Gen Z, you have more power than you think you do.
Mhm.
And sitting on the sidelines is not going to solve the problem. And sitting in your parents' basement for whatever reason is also not going to solve the problem. What I would encourage everyone to do is they have to be active in their own community. They've got to actually be there, show up to all the conversations when it comes to the local politics. All national politics starts locally. So be involved in your councils, be involved in your school boards, and show up and talk and email, write. And I know it's difficult to do that because you're stretched. You're simply trying to figure out, what the next job is going to be, what the next move is going to be, what the next opportunity lives. And you have to do that and also be impactful in your community in some way. So don't sit on the sidelines and just hang out. And just know that things will pass. This country, life, opportunities are on a pendulum. Sometimes you just catch it on the wrong one. And but things always swing back at some point in time. and just be patient about it.
Yeah. So for students who have a social justice heart, and there are a lot of students who I work with who truly have a social justice heart, who might be thinking, my only options are really disappearing. How can they still be disruptors? And I know you've already talked about engaging locally and, don't sort of dig your head in the sand. What are some other ways that students can still be um, disruptors and social justice warriors?
Listen, if you want to be a social justice warrior and then stay involved, there are some easy things that people can do. You can create a Facebook group around a topic to be able to bring people together to have this conversation about it. You can petition your local congressman about challenges you're seeing. You can also show up to the protests and show up where you need it. I think that all social justice warriors should be, frankly, enraged if they are not seeing change in their neighborhoods or in their country, and should show up to all the things that have energy behind them. I think that there's also a lack of leadership out there. So look for leadership positions, jump in and lead people. The challenge that we have right now is that I don't think we have anyone that's really stepping out. Like back in 60s, you had Dr. Martin Luther King, you had Malcolm X, you had so many people. You even had, John Hope Bryant's probably the closest that we have to sort of like a political slash, leader for Black culture. But we're still missing a lot of people that can really step out. You can be one of those.
Absolutely. What about students who are thinking about entrepreneurship and business as a route? What else should they be considering right now?
Frankly, they should be jumping directly into AI, but not AI in tech and
Mm,
development. Not like
okay.
that. Not like, let me work on, but be a student of AI and understand how it works, be more informed with the operations of it, and figure
Okay.
out where it can be beneficial to business, right? Because everyone is heading there. We are using AI more, frankly, in the last 2 weeks than we probably used ever,
Mm,
right? Because we now have discovered new programs, new ways of doing things, and new ways of approaching things, and we're using it to help us get a lot better and faster at the end of the day. So it's for entrepreneurs, potential business owners and founders. Getting into tech is standard. Developing an app is obviously standard. Developing new tools and tech might be standard, but understanding tech, being a service provider in tech, is also incredibly important. So those are the missed opportunities. Is that a lot of my friends that got super wealthy developed service lines, service businesses. They were able to sell off, that they were able to present and provide, that had absolutely nothing to do with the ownership of that thing. They just knew how to work that thing, and they solved the problem for those that could not figure it out. A lot of people will buy versus build a solution. So figure out how to create a solution so that someone can buy.
okay. Before we close, we've got sort of 3 rapid fire questions for you. Okay.
Okay.
First thing, something that keeps you up at night.
Something that keeps me up at night, besides my children and my new 18-year-old son driving. Um, the one thing that keeps me up at night is what did I forget to respond to
Oh,
the day before, right? That's
mm,
what's like, it's like, wait, I'm forgetting something that I should have done. And that's the business side of it. What keeps me up at night really is trying to figure out right now, what's keeping me up at night is where my kids are going to college. That's really, we're in the middle of college everything. So we've
mhm.
got one burgeoning 18-year-old, one 18-year-old, both of our seniors, and we're trying to figure out where they're going to college. So that's what's keeping me up at night is where they're going to go and how am I going to pay for it?
How are you
That's the
going
other
to pay
part.
for it? Oh my goodness. Second rapid fire, something that has made you smile really big this week.
Oh, see, my wife was gone to visit. Actually, my wife was gone on a school visit with our son, and and she's been rapid fire traveling for the last like couple weeks, and so she came home yesterday, and that put a big smile on my face as she was home.
Now that puts a big smile on my face. That's very sweet. That didn't start off, I was a little worried how that was going to end. Okay. Was you happy that she was gone? Okay. But you're happy that she's back. So
Happy
that's
she came home.
good. Okay. All right. And last question as we close. 10 years from now, when we look back on this era, what kind of disruption do you hope your work will represent?
Oh man, I'm literally in the middle of developing that 10-year vision. And what I will tell you is that I hope that my soon to be achieved work
Mm.
will disrupt the entire way that we promote products within the media and marketing ecosystem. That I want it to be a brand new way for us to be able to discover new things that we need as a society, whatever it might be, whether the toothbrush, toothpaste, and whatever. But I want to make it easier for creators to make money off of their businesses.
Love that. Today's conversation with Martin Ekechukwu reminds us that disruption isn't only about challenging systems. It can also mean disrupting your own life to find alignment, purpose, and a new way forward. Thank you so much for joining us on the North Star. Stay tuned for more conversations with leaders who are shaping what's next.
Thank you so much for the time.